What is up, AFC North football fans, and welcome into another edition of the AFC North Roundtable, powered by BetUS. Week 14 in the books. The Ravens were on the bye. We had an interdivisional battle between the Steelers and the Browns, and we had the Simpsons Bowl on Monday night, where Joe Burrow and company got it done in one of the odder fashions you'll ever see. We will recap all of that tonight here on the Week 14 recap episode of the AFC North Roundtable. So without further ado, let's bring in the boys, Zay, Mark, Sam, and Zim. Fellas, good to have you in. We thought that the game between the Browns and the Steelers would be a bit better, but it wasn't. We're going to talk about that game tonight. We thought that the Bengals might take care of the Cowboys a little bit easier. They didn't, but they did take care of them. We'll talk about that tonight. We'll also touch a little bit on what we saw from the Hard Knocks as well. We got some time with the Ravens being on the bye. Interested to see what your guys' thoughts are on how that whole thing has gone down. Before we dive into all of it, let's go dive into the odds to win this division over on BetUS. And according to BetUS, it is no longer a 4-team race. It is a 2-team race. It has come down now to the Ravens and the Steelers. And with the Ravens being on the bye and the Steelers picking up yet another win, these Steelers are now minus 200 to win the AFC North. Mark, big-time favorites heading into Week 15. And don't look out for just the winning of the division at this point. That 2 seed right now, that's also looking like it very much could be in play for Pittsburgh. Tough schedule ahead for the Steelers, but we'll see what ends up happening down the line. But as it stands right now, the Steelers minus 200 to win it. The Ravens in second at plus 160. If you want to get in on either side of this or any of the lines currently up for Week 15 of the NFL season, you can do so on BetUS using the promo code YouTube150. That'll get you a 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit and 125% bonus on your next 2 after that. All right, let's start with that interdivisional battle, fellas. We had an incredible game between the Browns and the Steelers a couple of weeks back in the snow under the lights. And Jameis Winston and company wound up getting it done. This time around, it went in the other direction. The Steelers were able to get their revenge over the Browns. 27-14 was the final, this time in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh improves to 10-3, and with the Bills, those Bills, baby. J.A. showed up, defense didn't, and with their loss, they're now tied with Pittsburgh at 10-3, and it'll be interesting to see if that 2 seed becomes a bigger race towards the end than maybe we thought. But let's talk about this game right now. Sam, I'll start with you. Steelers end up getting the job done. One of those games where you felt like they're capable of taking care of it. They're a touchdown favorite in here, and going into the latter stage of the year with the schedule they're facing, this was one they had to have, and they got it. Take away from what you saw from Pittsburgh against Cleveland.
Yeah, they look good. I mean, the Browns came in and I thought there was a shot that the Browns got it done. I mean, I picked the Steelers to win, obviously. I didn't expect the Steelers to lose twice, but the Steelers look good on defense, especially. Of course, James mentioned through those 2 picks, those are pretty costly for the Browns. I still like the Browns. I think the Browns are still a decent football team, and it's a division battle as well. So I think that those 2 teams playing each other, you expect it to be a little bit closer, but I think it shows where the Steelers headed at. They're looking, again, as you mentioned, the 2 seed, they're looking to clinch that division. There's a couple of games coming up that will pretty much decide that, but the Steelers they're looking good. The Browns are looking good as well. It's just that I think they still have some question marks that they need to get over, and obviously their season is pretty much over in terms of the postseason, but Steelers looked okay. You know, Russell Wilson, still hasn't thrown over 200 yards. He didn't throw over 200 yards in this game. He has the potential to do that. He did it against the Bengals, and he has that potential, but I still want to see a little bit more from Russell Wilson, but it's Week 15 now, so I can't really say the Steelers haven't played anybody. The Steelers aren't good. Their record is 10-3. What, 10-3 or yep. Yeah? So they're one of the top teams in the AFC. It's just can they make it to the finish line? That's what I'm looking for. But the Steelers, and as a Ravens fan, I hope the answer is no.
Getting to that finish line is going to be interesting. And if you're like Sam and you constantly want to remind yourself that I don't think that these Steelers are as good as maybe they are indicated by their record, this final stretch certainly will showcase that with the Eagles coming up. Then it's your Baltimore Ravens, Sam. Then it's those Chiefs on Christmas Day. Man, I can't wait for that one. On Netflix, of all things, too, which is interesting. And then they take on Zim's Bengals in the final week of the year. But for right now, Mark, these Steelers continue to roll. I'm going to go to Zim on this one now. You watch Pittsburgh against Cleveland on Sunday. And we had saw Pickens say after the Browns beat him in the Snow Bowl that he thought the weather might have had something to do with it. Now, he wasn't even in this game.
Right.
Steelers were still able to take care of it comfortably. Is that kind of the impression you got? Maybe the elements played in the factor of the Browns winning that pass game, and now in more reasonable conditions, the Steelers were able to take care of them the way that they did?
I don't know if I could say that. I'm not going to play the hypothetical on the weather portion. You just never know, like the circumstances with it. But I will say that the Steelers do what a lot of good teams do. A lot of people relish on like big matchups, and this, Z-Bot, like sometimes it might be Bills versus Chiefs. It might be like these big slug match games that people like, line up for teams, and they use that to judge and say, this is what makes this team better and da-da-da. But one of the elements that I think that make a really good team is a team that constantly does not allow lesser than opponents ever have like life. They can pay for it, and they win all the games that they're supposed to, and they never play down. Now, there's an argument, I'm sure, Mark, that you could say that you have played down to your opponents from depending. That's a perspective thing. Like, somebody might be like, I think this team really sucks. We should beat them by 20, and then you only beat them by 2. We played down to our opponent. Like, I don't really buy into that. I just think that when they're supposed to beat a team, a lesser than Browns team, they take advantage of it. When they play my team, they had the opportunity that presented itself. It was tied up, strip, sack, fumble. They make the plays that have to be made, and then they don't make the mistakes on the other end. George Pickens didn't play. A lot of people said, I don't know how they're going to look. They went back to Mike Williams. They did other different things that, that good teams do. And so I think the Steelers are a for real team. They've made me look stupid all year. I started off the season as I think I had them only winning 7-8 games or something like that. They're surpassed that, and they're a real team. To Sam's point, in the playoffs, some things do change, and we're going to see. Even the games that are coming up are going to tell us a lot. But the playoffs are a very different animal.
That's what's interesting about Pittsburgh. You look at their 3 losses, and they are 3 losses that I'm sure Mark would tell you were 2 inferior opponents. You lose to Dallas. That came down to the last play of the game. You lose to the Colts, and I think many would think that the Steelers are a better team than the Colts right now. And then you lose to the Browns. But these are what these divisional battles are, and that's why even with the Browns being a significant underdog in this game, you knew that, as Mike Tomlin has said, and I think everyone pretty much says it with this division, you just throw the records out. These are the type of games that they are. Zay, I'll go to you first here. So the Jameis Winston experiment that we are watching unfold, we've had a lot of fun watching it, but of course, these are the moments that you fear when you're rooting for Jameis to become what you hope Jameis can be. Because what Jameis can be is a top-tier quarterback when he is clicking. But the turnovers are certainly one of the bigger issues that he's faced throughout his career. And it was no different this past Sunday, including that one interception he threw on the screen where it's just one of those picks you can't have in a game. You understand trying to move the ball down the field and the play happens, but that's one that you essentially just gift to Pittsburgh. So you're watching this game, you're watching the collective effort from Jameis over the last several weeks. Where are you at right now heading into week 15 after what happened against Pittsburgh?
Why the hell is Dustin Hopkins still on our roster? You can deal with some Jameis Winston interceptions. That's that comes with the territory. But what you can't deal with is Jameis Winston interceptions and 2 missed field goals that would have had you tied up going into the half against a Pittsburgh Steelers team, to Zim's point, that where they will capitalize on every little thing, just like Baltimore will do. They will capitalize on every little thing if the chance comes to it. And unfortunately, it's crunch time. Mike Tomlin's already playing the chess move game with the George Pickens situation and how everything's going. They are in December mode. They aren't letting anything go by. And if you miss 2 field goals you make those 2 field goals, this is a completely different outcome of the game. I mean, maybe Jameis Winston doesn't throw that second interception. Maybe we do come out of the half and we do something with the ball. But we never will know, because Dustin Hopkins, for the 5th week out of the, not 10 losses that we had, has single-handedly shifted the outcome of the game. So that's my biggest takeaway from it. I wish I could give you more as far as what's the heck's gonna go forward, but I don't even think nobody knows as far as right now, because I think they genuinely want to know if Jameis could be that bridge moving forward. But if he can't turn down these turnovers and he can't win some games in this stretch, I don't know if they're gonna go that route, because I think if they do bring back Kevin Stefanski, he's shown that he can pretty much make it work with anybody besides Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, you mentioned kicking. It's been an Achilles heel for almost every team in the league, it feels like, this year. And there's 3 teams in here that have certainly felt that. I know Zim's felt it. I know Sam's felt it, and that's uncanny for Sam.
Except this guy.
And then of course, Mark, not only are the Steelers at the top, but they got the best kicker in the division right now, arguably kicking the best in the league right now in Chris Boswell. So I've just noticed throughout the league this year, every team, I mean, the Chiefs, of course, they're not having any problem on their 3rd kicker. Why not doink it in for another W? Who cares? It's Kansas City. Everything works for them. But it feels like everybody's had some sort of kicking issue throughout the year here. Of course, outside of your Steelers, Mark, and you wind up getting the W in this game. 27 points, and it's interesting because you didn't have to go crazy on offense in this game, right? Russell Wilson, only 158 yards on 26 attempts, 2 touchdowns. The lack of Pickens out there, Mark, that was certainly noticeable, I feel like, for this passing offense. But in classic Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers fashion, you wind up scoring enough points to win the ball game with the obstacles you have to overcome. Give me your big takeaway, though, not only from the win here, but from what this offense looked like without Pickens being in the fold.
I think the big takeaway is that guys like Scotty Miller, Mike Williams, and Ben Skowronek can step up and show up, right? I think people forget they are like the 3rd, 4th stringers, 5 stringers receivers, but Ben Skowronek, and I just want to make one big, my big takeaway is this. If you have your 2 gunners that are Ben Skowronek playing on the punt return or whatever, and also James Pierre getting a turnover each, that tells me how much of a depth they have for this team. And also turnover ability, like turnover-wise, we're 17 plus, something like that. So on the offense, though, George Pickens wasn't there. No Pickens, no problem. But look, you do want Pickens in there. He's a number 1. He's the guy that gets down the field and other routes get open. But in terms of this game, yeah, Russell Wilson didn't need to throw 250 or what it may be, because also the turnovers were getting a short field too. That muffed punt, the turnover by Benton, another interception as well. So there wasn't many yards to be had. And I think the game was kind of over from near the 3rd quarter. And for some funny reason, I was so happy. I don't know what Zay's thinking in their team. It took them 8 minutes to score a TD. 8 minutes, or 7 minutes and something seconds to score a TD. People in my chat in the Twitterverse were going, "Oh my goodness, that defense sucks." Dude, they're wasting time. They're wasting time tackling the ball in front of them. No big plays. Where's Minka? Minka's at the back, almost in the grandstand, playing safety. Like, this team is playing pretty good football from that sense, and they wasted too much time. And they were up by 14 points or 20 points, what it may be. But yes, we did miss Pickens. But Russell Wilson did his thing, got 2 TDs, didn't turn the ball over. I know that Myles Garrett was shushing everyone in the crowd, and then Steelers fans started going, Cleveland sucks, Cleveland sucks. Now, Wilson ran into that one. But yes, in the big games coming up with the Eagles versus Chiefs, Ravens, you do need Pickens back. But I think they'll get him back, like, not this week, maybe the week after. Because as to Sam's point, with the division, the Steelers just need to beat the Ravens. That's the only team we need to beat out of the next 4 games to win the division. All the other games don't count, because then we'd be the same on scoring for 11 wins or whatever it may be. So if we beat the Ravens, we own the standings over them, then we're sweet. So, but yeah, big takeaway is offense is doing just enough to get the ball moving around, scoring TDs in the short field.
It'll be interesting to see that stretch coming up. Every single one of these games is must-see TV for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think even if they go, I mean, with the stretch they have coming up here, it is difficult. But even in losses, Mark, I'm not anticipating losses. It'll just be interesting to see how they stack up. You can't overvalue, I feel like, the tests they're going to get heading into the postseason. No one might be more battle tested heading into January than Pittsburgh with what they have coming up. But as of right now, they're ahead of the division. They have another game against Baltimore. And like you mentioned, Mark, a win there and it'll all but get it done. That's why they're minus 200 to win it as of right now. Let's move to Monday Night Football, the battle between Homer and Bart, the Springfield showdown, and another game from Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, where you look at the box score and wonder how the hell this team is 5-8, 27-20. The Bengals win it in Dallas. The win coming off of a blocked punt that goes ahead of the line of scrimmage, touched by Dallas, then recovered by Cincinnati. They go and get the W off of Jamar Chase touchdown from there. Classic Dallas Cowboys this year. Just incredible how they were able to get that W. But what I find interesting is how it came down to that. Joe Burrow had 370 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, another near 200-yard performance. Just crazy. And even though Cooper Rush had under 200 yards in this game, it was Rico Dowdle that was able to run the ball with a hell of a lot of efficiency. And we've seen that be one of the many reasons why this Bengals defense has struggled this year. So, Zay, I'll start with you. What do you take away from these Bengals just watching them? Because once again, it's Joe Burrow. It just seems routine at this point that he's going to get just around that 350 to 400 yard mark, and Jamar Chase is going to battle right alongside of him and get up there as well. But it's always close, and it's never an easy W. Your thoughts on what you saw on Monday?
Besides their run game getting destroyed, they look pretty decent on the passing game. And I mean, Cooper Rush looked god awful. This guy, I mean, this dude cost me $2,200 on a parlay on my multi. I ain't even gonna lie to you. That dude he will never touch another slip again in my life. I promise you that. But when I was watching their defense, a lot of the things I feel like that Zim talked about throughout this entire year, man, they were creating some pressure up front, and it looked dominant. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on with them. If they were to get that throughout the entire year, maybe it'd be a different story. But Joe Burrow is incredible. Jamar Chase, thank you, Lord, for scoring me them points in my fantasy league. I needed every ounce of that. And I mean, you guys got 4% chance, Zim. You locked in, or you in mock draft mode still? Because if I was you, I'd be rocking that 4% chance all the way till it says 0.
4% better than 0.
Like what?
Yeah.
Tell you what, I don't think anybody wants to see that Bengals offense if they found a way to make that 4% chance into a reality. Sam, what did you see from the Bengals on Monday night that stood out?
I mean, same old, same old. You got the one of the best quarterbacks in the league and Joe Burrow doing his thing. I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting in the offseason. You have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins. I was initially in the thought that maybe you let T. Higgins walk and you try and shore up that defense, but they have the cap space. There's a chance. And I think I heard something from either the owner or the head coach stating that they're going to be trying to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase together. So that is a dangerous thing. If they can get the draft going and keep that defense in the right direction, and that means on the up and up with some high picks in the draft, they could be a very dangerous team. And you saw a little bit of that in the Cowboys game with how Trey Hendrickson and company were able to get to the passer. But yeah, that offense has been what that offense has been, and they're going to be in every game with that offense. It's just, and unfortunately, throughout the season, that defense has let them down. But the Cowboys found a way to lose. I mean, Jesus, that block punt that turned into a muffed punt was insane. So all in all, I think the game was fun to watch. I watched The Simpsons most of the time, which I thought was hilarious, but I don't think we need to see any more of that. But the Bengals are looking kind of good. I'm interested to see what they do next year.
I'm always interested. Who's the target audience for that? Because it's not diehard football fans. I don't think Simpsons fans are just too. I don't know. Zim, you got a thought on that?
I wanted to ask y'all that. Like, I know I'm going out of turn a little bit, but I tried to show that to my son. He's 8, and he didn't like the way it was drawn. He thought it was terrible. I don't know if you had kids in the house, but
you know who it's for? It's for the generation above us, the 50-year-old, 60-year-old crowd that grew up with Simpsons and watched it every single day with 5 o'clock like clockwork. I mean, I remember 50? It just being. Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's dude,
it's more like 40s,
40s, 50s.
40s and 50s.
I don't know. I'm a huge South Park fan, like diehard, and if there was a game on in the South Park mode, I think I could last probably 20 minutes before I'm like, I gotta switch it over. I just because the reason I wonder is because do you know how hard it is to pull that off? What they did, like the real time animation. It's not like they just did it for the sake of doing it. So what I do like about it, though, I think it gives you a blueprint almost of what the future might look like. I think we're going to start to get a variety of different broadcasts for every game, something that everyone can choose from, a gambling one, an animated one, this and that. So it's cool nonetheless. I just wonder, like, who's actually sitting there watching the whole thing. Mark, I don't know if you watched the whole thing. I
saw bits and pieces on Twitter and that kind of stuff. I was thinking the animation looks better than Madden. I was like, this game looks like a game.
Yeah, not saying much.
I was like, this looks like, I would definitely buy that game, like Simpsons football or something like that. But yeah, real time, seeing Homer sling the ball to a bloody cowboy into the end zone is fantastic. Or Lisa running a route up the sidelines.
Yeah, her animated version of Jamar Chase's touchdown was classic.
She put her foot in the dirt and just turned up.
I don't know who it's for. Like, I don't know if you can watch the whole game that way exactly, but I thought it was pretty cool and interesting. But yeah, to me, it looked much better graphics than Madden or gameplay, or even how the player movement was better than Madden nowadays. So I thought it was awesome.
What'd you think about the game in general, though? You have to play these Bengals at the final game of the year, and it could be meaningful for both teams. So your thoughts on what you saw?
I was so ready to make a Bengals suck video on my channel with it, but then the muff punt came over, and I was like, how they keep, they're still in at 4% chance. Look, they've got to get teams to lose and all these kind of things. I don't think anyone really wants to play the Bengals, including the Steelers, in the playoffs if they do make it, because Joe Burrow and those crew are on fire. Obviously, they need to get to 9 wins and things that happen. But, it's crazy to watch Joe Burrow and this team go crazy on the offense. And that muff punt, the Cowboys bungled it up, really, to be honest. Like, how do you not know the rules? How do you not know the rules? Just even a guy over in Australia knows the rules, right? The ball, once it's blocked, you can leave it alone and then you get the ball back. Like, there's no need to touch it. So that kept them in the season. That kept them going. They versus the Titans this weekend, so they can probably – is that right? They versus Titans this weekend. They can get the job done there. They need people to fall over. They're an exciting team on offense to watch, But I was just hoping they lose, and they didn't. They're still in the race.
So you're saying there's a chance. The old in the hunt graphic, Zim. You gotta love it. What are your thoughts about these Bengals right now? And I mean, looking, like Mark just said, Titans. It's going to be a dogfight with the Browns as always, but I would imagine in Cincy they're going to be favored there. The Broncos against a rookie quarterback, and then Pittsburgh. I mean, there's something there. Who knows?
I feel like it's too little, too late. I do think I think they're going to probably win out. I really feel like that. I didn't feel like that a week or so before. I guess winning one game makes you feel like that.
I know it.
But I don't think that it matters, because you need the Broncos to the Broncos can only win one more game, and that's the bigger one. And then the Colts have to lose 2 games. So those are the things. And then you still got the Dolphins. The Dolphins, I'm not as worried. I think their schedule is pretty tough. But but the overall game, all these instant classics and all this other stuff that I have every week, people are like, well, you got it on a lucky punt or whatever. I'm like, I've had 9 games that look just like that, but instead I had the other team go get that lucky muff punt or something like that. So I feel no type of way. Go watch the Bengals versus the Chiefs on 4th and 16, and then tell me, do you think that I would care about that? I see them twice. Had a chance to go win a game at the buzzer twice and failed on both of those opportunities. So the little bit of the line between winning and losing, that's what makes sports amazing. So I do recognize that. And on Monday night or whatever, they were on the good side of winning finally. And I feel really good about that. I feel really bad that Burrow and Chase are having like an insane scene. If people are bringing up Saquon or all of these other players, I think Jamar Chase is offensive. I think he'll probably win Offensive Player of the Year. I don't know what that looks like from we can check on BetUS or something. But offensively, I don't know. Like, if you go look at the numbers on what he's done this season, it's nobody's even close to the craziness that he's had in a lot of these performances. These are like 200-yard. He's got like 4+ 200-yard receiving games. Him alone, even that Burrow, when people be like, yeah, Burrow should be up for MVP, I'll be like, what about Jamar Chase? Like Triple Crown, there's only been a total of 4 Triple Crowns in the history of the NFL. I don't know if any of them have ever had, somebody could Google this, if any of them had 20 touchdowns in a Triple Crown. Like, this dude is doing something insane that I've never seen before.
I think Randy Moss might have with New England in 2007. But outside of that, I mean, and we're talking about an all-time offense and an all-time year. We're talking about a team that went undefeated, right? And this is a Bengals team that has a 4% chance to make the playoffs. That's how much of a barrier to entry this defense has been for them. I just looked it up for you, by the way, Zim, and this is the problem. Because the MVP is a quarterback award, right. The offensive player of the year is the non-quarterback MVP award. So right now, Saquon Barkley on BetUS -550 to win the offensive player of the year. Joe Burrow +10,000. Jamar Chase +550. I feel like Jamar Chase could be like +250. That seems a little high for me.
I feel like that too. I think the Saquon, like if he would have came back and ran for like 200 yards, I was
just gonna say that because you know what's gonna happen. Jamar Chase is gonna do this, but Saquon and the way that they riding him right now, he gonna have one more game where he do something stupid, like 200. He gonna have a 200-yard game or something, and they'll seal it up.
But the Jamar thing is not over. These dudes,
I think it's the popularity of Saquon right now.
Yeah.
I don't think it has
Yeah,
anything to do with
absolutely.
Jamar. I think it's the popularity of
Well, and
it.
they're winning too.
and
And
they're about saying we're not winning.
Yeah.
But as far as in terms of insane games, they're not done. They're 1,000 not hiding this. They're going for a Joe Burrow has said, "I'm going for. I hope this guy gets his triple crown." Like
Well,
he's also going for his own triple crown. Joe Burrow yards, touchdowns, and leading the league in QBR. He's currently second in QBR. So
Who's first?
I gotta be Lamar, right?
I thought so, but I don't know. He's been pretty bad these last 3 weeks.
Well, it's an interesting point you bring up, Zim. And so I don't know if you guys had watched the most recent update, or the most recent episode, rather, of the AFC North Hard Knocks. It's incredible. I don't think you could do it with another division and have it work the way it's working here. If you did it in the AFC East, I mean, what would be the point? What would you get right now from the Jets, the Patriots, and the Dolphins that would be worth watching at this point? This is why this division's so great, because even though you're having a down year from Cincy and Cleveland, half the episode was Jameis. I loved every single second of it. And you're watching the history of the rivalries, and you understand, despite the fact that some teams are better right now than others in the division, it does not matter within the division. You really get that vibe. And you just brought up something. You said it doesn't matter to Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow right now. They're playing for that. And there was a pivotal moment in the episode last night where the Browns are having a team meeting and they're talking about, what are we playing for? What are we playing for? And Myles Garrett's giving a speech. And they also talk about how you're basically playing for your future in the NFL here. I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if you guys watched the episode, but if you take a look at that, do you think that that's something that's worth looking into in terms of what this team can be in the future? Guys finding ways at this point of the year to gather that motivation, because I think it's got to be really tough. You're watching these episodes and you have nothing to play for in terms of the playoffs or a championship. They got to find a way. That can't be easy, and you're watching it unfold, and they're finding a way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of, like I know Zay, might be going through this now, where you're going to have a large amount of the fan base. It'll be people in the comment section that'll be like, man, I think y'all should tank and lose out and get a higher draft pick. And then you'll have the other half say, no, I can't ever go for tanking. Me personally, I think you should only be tanking for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. I leave it up to the front office. If I got the 11th pick or I got the 14th pick or I got the 18th pick, I'm trusting them to go get the best guy. This past year, we drafted at pick number 18. I think I got one of the best tackles in football in Amarius Mims. Like, they did what they had to do. They scouted correctly. He had a great game against Micah Parsons, no sacks. Played Myles Garrett, no sacks. Like, he's doing what we wanted him to do when we drafted him. And so I live by that. And I just think this is the point that I always make. Say that you're a veteran guy, then a rookie comes in next year, and then you're getting in there saying a speech and like, yeah, this is the standard here. And I'm a rookie and I'm looking at you. I'm like, bro, y'all just won 5 games. Like, what are you talking about? A standard? Like, no, I want to be able to have the guys like Burrow or whatever, for whatever perspective team, if it's Russell Wilson, if it's Lamar, be able to stand in front of there and say, hey, look, this is what we did. Yeah, maybe we didn't win this game or we didn't do this, but look at what we did, what we put on tape to do this moment. I mean, to win this game and go do that. And I think that has carryover. And I think, above all else, like, these guys are millionaires playing for millions of dollars and playing for their family. So you better put something good on tape. It's more guys than not that's not going to be under contract. So you better put something good on tape if you think you're about to get another job next year.
I think it's a good point. Go ahead, Mark.
There was one moment that really pissed me off in a good way, was when damn Jamar Chase was chilling with a kid who had cancer or something. I was like, can't stand the Bengals, can't stand them. But those moments are pretty cool, right? Yeah. That kid's like 9 years of age, 7 years of age. He meets his superstar, taking his time out of his day to go and cheer him up. And I guarantee you, whatever he's going through, those happy vibes got to mean something. Like, it has to increase his health or do something to him. So can't stand them. But those moments inside Hard Knocks, this is the kind of stuff that you want to see all the time. Like, you love seeing, like, some of my fan base, Steel Nation, was like, oh, we don't want to see it's going to be a distraction. But no, it won't be. Their whole life is really a distraction anyway in terms of football. You just got to get around it, move around it, right? So those are the moments where, he's chilling with the kid. The kid's obviously, sick, going through a lot of problems. he's throwing the ball to him, teaching him the gritty. You're like, that's what it's about, man. I think sometimes, and I talk about this on my show a lot, like, because we're all football analysts, and we forget about like the actual side, going to a game, waving the towel, or whatever we're doing, and the kids and stuff who watch it. They don't care about like, we should have got this many yards or how many points they got. All they want to see is their team win. So that's why I think Hard Knocks is killing it right now, because they give you a glimpse into it. By the way, I watched it legally. I had to legally watch it. So there's no other way I can really do it, right?
I think as content creators, we're very, very influential on what we're picking to show our audience and how those people take that information and then do what with it. And me, myself, I hang around like my nephews and stuff. They young. They like 18, 17, whatever. So like a lot of my content is geared towards like younger fans and stuff. So I'm educating people at the same time. I'm very, very cognizant of me like just being like, fire this guy, get this guy off my team. If this dude has done a lot for our team, I'm generally bigging him up because like my son, when he go into the stadium, I want him to look up and say, yeah, AJ Green, like that's your favorite player right there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I'm always mindful of those different things because that one experience, like with kids and them growing up, like that's how I became a Bengal fan. So, you know what I mean? Like that's a very important part of all of this.
Totally agree. It's a great point. And I think that is one more of those reasons why you go and play at 4-8 and you go and ball out because of what you had just said, Mark, and for all those kids out there, because that they don't give a damn. I mean, that one game to them is everything. They don't know what the record is. They do, but they don't really care. It means something to them, like you just mentioned, Mark. One more thing I wanted to ask you, Mark, that I thought stood out in the episode was the sequence from the interaction between Mike Tomlin and Joey Porter Jr., where he's telling him, you ain't going to be great today. You ain't going to be great today. And he's basically telling him, like, he's motivating him in a way that just felt, you're watching, you're like, you know what? That's why Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record. And that's why anybody who wants to fire this guy because they lose a couple of games is out of their mind. Because it's a way of coaching that I think only he could pull off, where he's telling him, you ain't done nothing yet, but you can do something. And that's coming off a game where he had 6 holding calls and he was sort of an Achilles heel for Pittsburgh. Your takeaway from Tomlin kind of coaching up the youngster there.
He's also saying, keep playing your way. But I think we also do forget this as fans too, because we want the instant reaction where we signed Joey Porter Jr. We want him to be the number 1 overall lockdown corner that you've ever seen ever exist, right? But it does take time. And when I was a kid watching the game in 2008 4 to 8 or whatever it is, it took time for even get players on the field. So for Tomlin saying that, and I like the way he does it too. Walks around in practice, he's the bloke, he's the man, he's the coach, he's the guy with all the knowledge. Walks around and goes, hey, Joey, man, you haven't done nothing yet. He goes, oh, well, hang on a minute, but I'm like the best corner in the game. I'm doing this. I haven't done anything yet. And he's true. He's right. Like, he's only been in the league now, I think 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is. I think it's 2 years. And then we'll see him progress and get better and better and better. But that's the leading of Coach Tomlin. And also, for the people who are hating Tomlin, I think they're just silly at this moment. They're completely silly. 3-year contract. Hard Knocks is showing how he coaches, chilling back, eating Cheetos and saying, well, you know what? We need to go and get Myles Garrett this week. And here's why. We need to go attack this person and here's why. Joe Burrow steps up in the pocket. And when I saw that from 2 weeks previous, that's exactly what he did for the Cowboys. And he stepped up and zinged the ball everywhere and was killing it. So I think it's a good. It's for all clubs. It just shows you how it's. Chloe said it. It's a human side of it, and we forget that because we get all drawn into the fantasy and the stats and this team. I'm going to use the Ravens. The Ravens should beat the New England, not New England, the New York Giants, right? Because they're $7 and it should piss easy win. They forget the human side of it though, where it's like your nose tackle versus your center, who wins that battle. It's this guy versus that guy. And when you see like Mike Tomlin walking around the corner doing those things, it's pretty fucking fun. Sorry, it's fun to watch. Like, it really is.
Zay, speaking of the human element, has there been have you noticed a reaction from the Browns fan base after the episode last night? Because Jameis had a decent amount dedicated to him, and man, it's just, the guy's the most likable guy ever. Is there like I don't want to say, like the 2 and on type groups, everybody's just falling on the sword for 2. I'm sure it's not to that level yet because Jameis has only played a handful of games, but are you seeing like a sort of sector of the fan base start to dedicate themselves to the Jameis Winston future here based off of moments like that?
You're talking about Cleveland football, brother. They wrapped around Cody Kessler. They've wrapped around Steve Hogan. I mean, you name any quarterback, they've wrapped their arms around it. So you best believe there is a gang of Winston guys that will go to war for this man. I haven't watched any of it yet because I want to binge it. I'm a guy that the anxiety and all that stuff. Like I need to see it all right then and there. That's how I am. But I did see the one clip though, and it's, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire around a lot of stuff. And that one clip they had where they was in Denver and Kevin Stefanski's on the sideline and he goes, I don't care what you got to do. Jameis Winston is throwing for 400 yards right now. Whatever you got to do, get the ball. That tells me there's something good there. The person, remember the episode on Hard Knocks when Hugh Jackson was like, I'm the one driving the bus. I think there's a little bit of that going on right now because I don't think Kevin Stefanski wanted to give up the offense. I think he still has his hand heavily involved. I think he really that clip is just a little bit of an indication that, hey, bro, get this together. Like, I don't care what you got to do, but I want this to happen. And I just think there's a lot of division within the organization, and everyone is doing what we're talking about. What are you playing for? I'll tell you what the Browns are playing for. Individually themselves. This is no team effort, I feel like, in my personal opinion, going on right now. I'm sure there's guys fighting for their brothers in that locker room, but the guys that are under contract have their money, but there's a lot of guys in that locker room that don't have their money or that guaranteed money, and everybody is playing for themselves right now, which is why we're 3-10, and which is why you're seeing all these little questions that you could be like, oh, there's the dysfunction. Oh no, that's dysfunction. It's all through our organization, bro.
Zay, I have to ask you because you ask me about the demise of the Bengals every chance you get. Always talking about how are you gonna get your heads together? I just don't see it, bro. We've never drafted one, so you know. But let me ask you this: do you think because your team is the poster child of giving all these random ass players guaranteed money, do you think now at this point, like I said earlier in the season, do you think that plays a factor for what you're saying that guys are just playing for themselves?
I think because you're losing, yeah. Because last year we were winning, you know what I mean? But the difference in between the last year though, a lot of the guys that were making the money were still injured, or a lot of those guys. The people that were helping win a lot of the games were third, fourth, fifth string guys. So I think the money. You're seeing two different strategies. You're seeing your side where players aren't getting the bread and it's not resulting in it. And you're seeing our side where players did get the bread and we aren't producing and how it can have an effect on a team. I think the difference being is, though, you have a quarterback that's actually producing that has a pool, whereas we don't. So when the quarterback isn't doing his job, everything else is going to crumble if they ain't getting targets and production and money to go along with it. So I think you're seeing both worlds. The grass ain't greener on either side.
Before we wrap up, Sam, Ravens were on the bye week. They come out, and like I said last week, they might as well be on a second bye week. They're a 15-point favorite against the Giants this week. That's the biggest favorite anyone has been all year long. Isn't that crazy? That is crazy. Biggest favorite all year.
What's the money line bet? Hold up. What's the money line for the Giants?
I don't know. You'd probably win. Let me look right now.
That got to be like +6, right?
Oh,
plus
yeah.
550.
Oh, it's got to be. It's got to be even more than that. I don't know. Let's take a peek because this is the equivalent of like Bama being a 40-point favorite over like
Vanderbilt and losing.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus 900, I think.
As long as I don't stop my boy Malik Neighbors from getting these points in his fantasy, then
We got you.
100 wins you 900 on the Giants to win straight up. So that's what this type of game is. So real quick, Sam, we're going to preview this game later on in the week here on our preview episode. But your takeaway from coming into the bye week off that loss to Philadelphia, now coming out of it, looking to stay fighting for this division and up your seeding. We had that situation where we talked about Lamar and maybe him wanting to do more with his legs going into the end of the year here. So your overall outlook coming out of the bye and what that looks like for Baltimore moving forward.
I'm looking to see if this team can put it together. We're finally seeing the defense starting to turn a corner. Like since that Thursday night football game where we won against the Bengals, but it felt like a loss. A lot of defensive changes that the Ravens made. And since that game, the Ravens are number one in pass defense in the entire NFL. So that's a huge shift. The Ravens offense since then has sputtered a little bit. Their red zone offense has definitely been on the decline. So I'm looking to see that red zone offense pick up a little bit. Great time to do it against the Giants, who pretty much are terrible in every aspect of the game, at least right now. So I'll see if the Ravens could use this game to build up for the next game, because they have a game against the Steelers, and then immediately following that, a Wednesday game against the Texans. So even if the Ravens somehow find a way to beat the Steelers, they still have to make sure they bounce back a physical game up against the Texans team. So I need this Ravens team to build upon this Giants performance and move on up. I think a huge question mark for Ravens fans is the status of Justin Tucker. Where is he at mentally after pretty much losing them the game against the Eagles? Where is he at with that? The Ravens have made it very clear they're not going to bring in another kicker. They had a chance to get Parker Romo from the Vikings. He moves on and is in the practice squad with the Patriots. So there's a chance if Tucker struggles, they can pull him out from that practice squad over in New England. So we'll see. But I think right now it's the status quo, maintaining the course and hopefully picking up some wins.
It'll be interesting. We'll talk more about that in the Week 15 preview episode later in the week. Before we close up shop, Sean's coming in. Just got home. What did I miss? Go Steelers. Cleveland sucks. He's putting the exclamation point.
I'll tell him what he did miss, a playoff win. That happened in 2016.
Oh!
Sean always with the dough. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Sean. Zay with the clap back. We'll be back with the preview episode later in the week. Looking forward to seeing you then. On the way out the door of this one, like button if you could, subscribe button if you could, and of course, YouTube 150, the promo code on BetUS. That'll get you 150% sign up bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit, and 125% bonus on your next two after that. For Zay, Mark, Zim, and Sam, I'm your host, Z-Bot. Thanks so much for tuning in to the AFC North Roundtable, and we'll see you on the next one.